All right, this is the key to quiz number two, and quiz number two was on topic four, which was on complex numbers. Now, on this quiz, there were only four problems, and basically you had to add two complex numbers, you had to subtract two complex numbers, and then notice in number three, you were multiplying a binomial, um, a complex number of two terms, times a monomial. And then number four, you had two complex numbers that you were multiplying together, and those were in the form a plus bi. So in number one, notice that this is an easy one because the coefficient in front of this complex number is 1, and the coefficient in front of this complex number is 1 as well. So basically, when you have this situation, see there's no number other than 1. There's not a 3 here, there's not a 4 here, or anything like that. So in that situation, all you do is just add the real number parts, which is 3 and plus 2, which is 5. And then you're going to add the imaginary parts. So a negative 5i plus a positive I is a negative 4i. And so that is the answer for number one. Number two, you're subtracting these two complex numbers. Now the way I would approach this is that with this subtraction here, think of this right here as being a 1. And so you're going to be, I try to use a different color here so it's still showing up as the same color. So let me try this and see if that's going to work. So think of this as negative 1, and then you're going to distribute this negative 1. And so when you distribute the negative 1 here, um, remember all the signs in here will change. Now this right here, the coefficient in front of this complex number is 1. So 1 times each of these terms is that same term. So this becomes 6 plus 4i, and then a negative 1 times 2 is a negative 2, and then a negative 1 times a negative 7i is a positive 7i. And then basically all you're going to do now is just combine like terms. So 6 minus 2 is 4, and then 4i plus 7i is a positive 11i. Okay, number three. So number three, you're going to use a distributive property for this one. And so every term that's inside this parentheses, you're going to multiply by 4i. So we have this. We have 4 times 3i, which is 12i. And then 4 times a negative 6i is going to be a negative 24, because 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. And then remember, I times I is I squared. Now you have to remember the fact that I squared is defined to be a negative 1. And so I'm going to replace this I squared with negative 1. So I get 12i minus 24 times negative 1. And so that becomes 12i, and then a negative 24 times a negative 1 is a positive 24. Um, and so writing in the form a plus bi, so if you wrote it like this, I'm not going to mark anything wrong, but the directions did say write in the form a plus bi. So I wanted you to rewrite this as 24 plus 12i. Okay, now number four. In number four, it did say show work. So keep that in mind. It did say show work. So I did expect you to show the FOIL method here. So I did expect you to do something like this. So first times first. So 2 times 3 is 6. The outer 2 times a negative 5i is a negative 10i. The inner 3i times 3 is a positive 9i. And then the last, a positive 3i times a negative 5i. I did need to see you write this term as, remember, positive times a negative is a negative. 3 times 5 is 15. And I did need to see that you knew that I times I was I squared. And then using the fact that I squared is equal to negative 1, I'm going to rewrite this as 6 minus 10i plus 9i minus 15 times a negative 1. And then I'm going to go ahead and simplify this term right here. So I get 6 minus 10i plus 9i, and then a negative 15 times a negative 1 is a positive 15, and now combining like terms, and then put in the form a plus bi. So we get 6 plus 15 is 21. A negative 10i and a positive 9i is a negative I. And there's your answer. All right, so that is the key to quiz number 2, topic 4.